my name is Camelia. I'm the founder of Kabel. I am also the CEO of Kabel, where I actually manage the whole entire, not just the strategic part, but also the entire operations of Kabel itself. So Kabel is actually a Tinder-like job matching platform. How we help graduates find jobs is by scaling up their connection and making sure that their connections as fast and responsive. So what it means here is that as a user, as a graduate, once you actually post up your job, you will start to get recommendations of job immediately. And if you like those jobs, you swipe right. And if you don't like the job, you swipe left to reject it. When the other person or the employer matches back, all you need to do is to basically first touch base would be the chat. That will be your first point of contact for an interview. So that's what we specialize in. Kabel actually serves a two-sided market business, right? One side is actually the students from the university or tertiary education, and the other end is actually the employers and specifically SMEs. In today's world, most of the time I know that my HR friends are actually using job portals to still recruit for their early talents. Unfortunately, a study actually done by DHL back in 2021 states that students, when they did a survey, they say students find that job portals are only 3% effective. Now, the reason why is because they find it very manual, it's very slow in terms of the whole entire process, and then there's no response, and also there's no personalization at all. So to them, this whole entire process is very extremely manual. So these are the digital natives that we're talking about, who's been exposed to like sophisticated tech. As of the employers, who then use job portals to actually post up their job, they find that there's no application. So here we are providing a platform where we can actually get themselves to meet on the platform itself as fast as they post up their profile, speed up the whole entire process of meeting each other by just 3 simple steps: swipe, match, and chat. And with that, we hyper-focus on just providing our platform to just be as effective as possible and to create the impact that we want, which is to connect people that will translate to hiring. I started Kabel for a few different reasons. I've been doing, recruitment for the past 20 years. So in and out, I have actually placed multiple people and see people rise from, manager right up to C levels today. And that gives me pure satisfaction. One side of the reason why I am actually doing this is because I had employers who are my clients for the past 20 years coming back to me and ask like, can you help me source for early talents? You're talking about fresh grads. I'm like, no way, I'm doing headhunting. It's a very manual business. I can go one-on-one, but how is it that I'm going to help you recruit like 20 people, 30 people in your company, right? So I say like, okay, let's just try to see what I can do. So I kind of like chucked aside. Going back a little bit further, I didn't come from a very well-to-do family. So we're talking about growing up in a 800 square feet kind of apartment where a family of 5. My parents, they were factory workers. I realized one thing, when I started to compare myself with my friends who had better connections through their parents or through their relatives, they kind of like landed themselves in a better space, as their first job. And this is a very important criteria for fresh grads because it basically forms the trajectory. But there are some studies saying that if you do land yourself in a good job, something that you really like to do, that you're really passionate about, and people are willing to pay you for it, your trajectory of a career will go smooth regardless of their background. This brings me back to then the whole concept of Kabel itself, because we believe in making connections regardless of your background because we're using real data points. With this, I'm able to help people of all sorts of background. I don't care whether you come from the private you're a public university, or whether you come from a B40 family or a rich family. At the end of the day, everybody is actually given an equal opportunity to go and do well in their first job based on what they really love to do, what they studied, and what they're really motivated to do. I use whatever knowledge that I have actually gained from the past 20 years in my headhunting as a recruiter point of view. Like, what are the data points that I would actually extract when I look at CVs? And that kind of like formed my first MVP of Kabel. Since we launched in October 2021, we have made like 8,000 over connections. I think in terms of our database, we have people from all sorts. whether you're public U, your college, your TVET, or your private university, we don't care. And we also managed to actually make 1,000 over placements so far. And I'm glad that they came from all sorts of different backgrounds. So to me, it's a very inclusive technology that enables everybody to just go in there and have a fair chance, fair equal opportunity to actually get themselves cross that border of from student to the first-time workforce. The tough part about running Kabel is actually being able to adapt at different phases very quickly. The ability to actually be humble enough to say that I was wrong in the first place, right? And that because we're all startups, we are innovators. We're trying to create something new to help a situation, a problem, right? And as a founder, you would probably start off like very geared up and thinking that, hey, you know, I've got 20 years of experience, I must be right. And that to actually agree, and not just agree just yourself, but in front of your team, saying that, hey guys, you know, whatever that I think it is working, it's not working. And you need to do this quite a lot, like unlearn to learn again, unlearn to learn again. I think it was very tough at the very beginning of the company. I think the second phase is actually looking for people who you can really work with, right? It's also quite tough because especially so if you have not gotten an experience as an entrepreneur yourself. So to be able to actually connect with people that is talking tech all the time as a non-tech founder is actually extremely daunting. Sometimes you even doubt yourself, like, are you even competent enough to actually do this startup? So the self-belief needs to be there, but finding the right co-founder is extremely important. Finding the right team that believes in your vision is extremely important. What we needed to do in the second phase was, or rather me, is to actually fine-tune my communication. How I would actually communicate effectively to tech people so that they can design, you know, the product as what it intends to do. The third phase will go into like finding the PMF, the product market fit itself. You can design a lot of things which are good, but if it only works to your benefit and it's not what the customers actually want, you know that the startup will probably not fly because people will not pay to use your product. So the ability to actually prioritize is extremely important, and the matrix for you to actually see whether that's successful changes all the time. I think the scariest thing that could happen to not just Kabel or any startup is running out of cash, right? Cash is basically just the lifeline of the organization. You know, without cash, we can't do much. How we actually do this is to make sure that, again, is coming back to the very clear matrix at that point in time, what we're focusing on, to make sure that we continue to validate the features that we are developing that is really useful and that's what people actually want. And the validation point here is that we need to have it quick. So it means that when we design a feature, it must be something that the user is facing a problem. And when we design something, we need to be very crystal clear that we're not designing additional features that will prolong the period. So anything that can make it just work, and that's about it. So in a way, it's an MVP. And then validation comes with then users paying money, or there will be users who say, I want to use it. And you go on, and this is a continuous cycle until you find the product market fit, until you build that, you know, your company is so solid that your core of your product cannot be destroyed by anybody. So we are at that stage where we are building that while we are balancing it up with cash flow. As a founder to another founder, I want to share that learning is fun, although it's painful. I'm not denying the fact that it can be painful. My immediate advice is that try to get your product market fit as soon as you can. Without the product market fit, whatever things that or activities that you're building as a layer on top of it will mean that you are just wasting your resources. You're building your data, but then later on, you know, you find that you cannot use those data anyway. So whatever resources that you have spent, whether it's money, whether it's time, effort and whatnot, it will just basically means nothing. But we need to embrace failure is the point that we learn. What we can actually learn from the failure is that how fast we can actually pick up the good things of it is the learning, and how fast we actually respond to that and continue to actually innovate.